Welcome to the Real Estate Time Freedom Show, where we show you how to create your investing business around your ideal lifestyle, using automation technology and building a rock star team. Join our community online at realestatetimefreedom.com. And now here's your host, Carlos Zamora.
They'll do the replay. Hashtag replay, baby.
Hashtag replay, baby. Thank you guys for choosing to spend some of your time today on the Real Estate Time Freedom Show by InvestorFuse. We have possibly our first repeat guest on here, Jesse LeBlanc, CEO of Exigo Management. What's going on, dude? Thanks for hopping on.
Man. I'm glad to be on here again for round two. This time we've got a lot deeper into some really good stuff for everybody that's watching here.
All right, round two. Very pumped for that. Jesse's in the Atlanta area. And just to do a quick bio on Jesse before I hand the baton to him to give a further introduction and kind of context of what he's doing now, what he's done in the past. He kind of does a little bit of everything in the real estate transaction game. Buy and hold investor, flipper, note buyer, team of wholesale and systems guy for sure. And he's now broadening his awareness to all business opportunities, not just real estate, which we're going to touch on. I got to hang out with Jesse and meet Jesse in person for the first time. When was that? In Raleigh. We got a couple beers. Dude, that was a very awesome time. When was that? It was probably 3-4 months ago, around that.
Yeah, it's probably longer than that. It just seems like it was only 3 or 4 months ago. But yeah, I think it was like right around Christmas time, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But that was awesome to see Jesse. And I'm a really big believer that everybody does have their unique genius. Some people are just more dialed into it and are able to show it more. Jesse is definitely a dude that puts his team first. And a lot of people talk about that. A lot of leaders talk about that. But Jesse is really someone that just like lives that 24/7. He's on vacation doing deals. Him and his wife will be on vacation still doing deals, still talking to their team, have a random brainstorm idea. So definitely follow Jesse on Facebook. At the end of the episode too, I have a little section too that I can show you his YouTube channel that he started to put content on, everything like that as well. So just an overall awesome dude. I want to give you guys a little bit of background on Jesse as well that I'm going to open up to him, but also check out timefreedomshow.com and go to episode 4. And in that episode with Jesse, our first interview, we deep dive kind of like on his whole background. The title has something to do with like former police officer turned real estate investor in Atlanta, but it's episode 4, timefreedomshow.com. Definitely check that out if you're enjoying Jesse's Valley today and want to hear more about him. But dude, let's dive into a little bit about not only what you want to talk about today with the rental strategies and company culture, team building stuff, but also a little bit of context, what you're doing, how you got into real estate, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so just a quick recap for anybody who hasn't had the time to go back to number 4. So years ago, I think in 2009 to about 2014, I was a police officer. Before that, I came from finance and marketing, worked in the corporate world. Thank God, got away from that finally. So yeah, was a police officer until 2014, got out of that, and then really was always in some form of fashion an entrepreneur, but really didn't know what my next step was. So as soon as I got out of there, I just started doing odd jobs. And then one of the most recent things, I said when I got out of there, was a Section 8 inspector. So I did Section 8 inspections for probably 6 or so months, met a lot of investors, met a lot of contractors, and then started my company, Exigo Management, as what now I know is basically like a GC kind of deal, which I didn't even know what the heck a GC was at the time, but I knew investors, I knew contractors, and I just put, thinking, how can I still make money from this? So I knew investors needed work done. I knew contractors needed work. Well, heck, I'll just go ahead and upcharge here and then just manage the project, make sure it got done. So I became basically a project manager for my own company. About 2 months later, a guy that I did some deals with or some work for him loved exactly everything that we were doing. And he ended up being a partner in 2015, did a bunch of flips with him in 2015. Finally stepped away from him. Just having that partner just wasn't my thing. It was just a little too stressful. And I was pretty much funding everything, running all the projects. I was pretty much doing all the work. And I was looking up to him thinking he knew what he was doing, but I found out he didn't. So March of 2015, while I was in Germany, I bought my first house here in Atlanta. and then started flipping. I never looked back from then. So 2016, I was just doing my own flips. By the end of 2016, I was trying to find out, how do I get better deals? I don't want to just keep reaching out to these other smaller companies or the big companies who are just taking all the profit, not leaving any meat on the bone for the new investors. Mm-hmm. And so I just started, looking into, how do I get my own deals? Found out about wholesaling, did that for a very short period of time at the very end of 2016. And I mean, like, a very short period of time did I do it. I did it so short that I realized it's nothing that I want to do, but I know I've got to have that lead source. So I found, actually I didn't find, I was just thinking about who I could hire, who I knew. And it turned out to be one of our really good friends. So I stripped him from one of his IT jobs and promised him a full year salary, what he was making at the existing job. I barely even had the money in the bank just to be able to pay for this guy. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to make it work. I don't care if I got to pull money from my credit cards again. I don't care where I got to get it. I'm going to make it work. And so after about 4 months in the start of 2017, I'm not sure if we even had one deal. I think right around April of the first year is when he finally got his first deal. By then, by the way, I was about ready to fire him because I'm like, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I don't know why I hired my friend, but the second he got his first deal, it's like light bulb goes off. Then it was like game on. He's a people person. It's all about taking care of that person. I don't care if you got to sit there for 2 to 3 hours and talk to them about their aunt and their uncles and their dogs and whatever. Then just get the contract signed. That's what it was all about at the time. So that was the start of 2017. By the end of 2017, we were like growing just out. I mean, we couldn't even keep in our own office, man. We were just like scaling and growing super quick. We had to start hiring more people and more systems, more marketing. By the end of 2017, I was probably spending close to $15,000, maybe $20,000 a month just on different types of marketing. So now we're like adding more acquisitions guys to the team. I was one of those who initially I hired quick and took too long to fire. And that only took about 4 months. And then I realized we can't keep doing this. Then I realized, okay, this is fire quick, right? I mean, we're not going to play games. You've got a month. We're going to give you everything. There's zero reason why you can't have a good deal or at least show and prove that you're at least trying and trying. So I went through quite a few people to find the right people. And so now in 2018 into 2019, we've got 5 acquisitions. I've got an account manager who now is actually stepping away from being the account manager into acquisitions. I've got 3 or 4 more people that are in line right now that we're about to hire in the next couple months. We've got one person who's coming on that's just straight dispositions. And she's also going to be dispositions, but also relationship building, just going out there and lead generation, just contacting attorneys, property management companies, building those relationships just to kind of keep additional deal flow coming in. And then she just hands it off to the acquisitions team. The acquisitions team takes it. She eventually will sell it. And then we've got a full-time sales and marketing director coming in who is one of Tesla's #1 guys. And wow. Zillow right now is chasing him down, trying to get him to work for them as well. I haven't disclosed who he is yet because he's still working for his existing company and they haven't been informed of the see you later. So that's coming in about 2 months. And right now, this week, I'm hiring on a part-time property manager for our existing rentals and then thinking ahead. Right now, we don't have that many, but I already want him stepping in. So that way I already have that system and that person taking place are already taking place in my rentals. So then as I see more rentals coming in through our acquisitions team, I can literally just tell my guy, monitor every deal that's coming in. If it fits our criteria, run all your numbers, shoot me a quick email and yes or no. That's all I want to know. I don't want to hear anything else about it. I just want to have that mailbox money coming in. So what else? We're going to dive super deep into it here in just a minute, but that's kind of the start from 2014 to where we are right now.
That's a great interview, great overview. One thing I want to touch on, which is pretty interesting that I feel like more companies should be doing if they have the leverage to, is having someone in that position that you described as kind of like a relationship manager that has part of their work week just dedicated to networking, referring, yes, and lead generation type stuff. Could you talk a little bit about that? What gave you the insight to do that, and maybe a little bit on what
So
what
before
he's doing?
Sure. Before I say that, I did forget one other thing too. For those of you who are coming on now, is that I still did a ton of the flips. And so I do have a full-time project manager just on my flips as well. So now literally we've done enough to where I don't have to really answer any questions. It's almost like mimic one of these 3 houses. You already know the deal. I'll see you when it's done. So now I only go to houses 3 or 4 times throughout the entire process of a flip, unless it's like, hey, I'm driving by and I got nothing better to do. So we have that guy as well. But going back into the relationship part, and that's something I've always wanted to do. That's something that I was probably taking on initially, like trying to go out there and build the rapport, the relationship. And then that way I could bring in all the leads. I don't care if it's such an amazing deal. I could just run with it and keep it myself. But I just say, you know what? It's a long-term play. I just pass it right on to one of my other employees. And then that way they can still take over and get the commission instead of me just trying to be selfish and take it all myself. But I know, hey, long-term, these deals are going to be coming in all the time, and we're going to have so many where I just want to pass them on, and just keep the funnel going. But this position, I think, is something that a lot of people do talk about, but they never make the time to go out there and actually do it. And I mean, you can get so many leads from property management companies. And instead of just walking in and saying, hey, I want to build a nice relationship with you, and oh, by the way, I'm really only here because I want all of your properties. That's not going to kick it. You're going to have to go in there and build a relationship and add value to them. So one of the ways that I really add value to them is, hey, what if I say any of your properties from your investors, when they're ready to sell, or for whatever reason, they've got to sell the property. If you give me first dibs on the property, here's what I promise I'll do with you. I'll write up a contract, whatever it takes, take you out to lunch, let you know that I'm serious. What I'll do for you is keep the property under management with your company. Or if I'm going to wholesale it out and I sell it to another investor, the only way that I'll sell it to that investor is if they keep the house under your management. Because at the end of the day, a property management company, really, obviously, it's about money, but they want to keep their customers, which is customer retention. So the second you drop that customer retention, light bulbs go off for them, and they're like, yes, yes, yes. Because they do lose a lot of deals. For whatever reason, investors are selling them. Well, that's less income for them, 10% or so every single month from that income, from that rent out the door. So sure, they don't care if they just give it to someone like us, as long as they get to keep that house. They don't care how much it sells for.
Mm-hmm. That's a great nugget there. If anybody wants to rewind that, listen to that live again, that's a great nugget there. When you're talking to property management companies, include that in the deal.
Yep. So that, and actually, my new dispositions lady is actually coming from a company that I went and talked to, and they weren't treating her correctly, and she's underpaid and overworked. And just from going in there initially, building that relationship, trying to add value to their company, now she's going to be a new employee. So you never know who you're going to meet and what's going to come from it, but definitely add value to someone else before you start talking about what you want. Always. Attorneys, man, will attorneys, real estate attorneys, probate attorneys. You could go to bail bondsmen. People have no idea that bail bondsmen will also use the house as collateral too on that bond. They got to sell the house eventually. You know, if there's some problem, someone skips, guess what? They have rights to that house. I don't know the exact 100% process. I leave that to them. I'm not the professional on that side, but I know that's another contact for a lead source, of course. You can also talk to elderly real estate for, lawyers for elderly. They always, at some point in time, they're going to be passing away, right? So there's going to be a lot of family that are having to deal with the will attorneys and the attorneys that their grandparents or parents had before they passed away. So those are just another source of leads.
Very cool. I'm wondering what would be like the onboarding process if you were to bring in a hire like that. Would you have to be doing all this stuff yourself, as far as like the CEO or the operator would have to be doing all these type of connections, adding value first, and then kind of just make a process for somebody? Or do you think you could hire somebody and kind of just give them a process of what you want done, and then you tell them, hey, just start adding value, like the property management company, for example, like, hey, reach out to X amount of property management companies per week. Yep. Say that you work with an investment company, say that you'd be willing to purchase properties from them and keep them in place, something along those lines.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to know how to do it. I think you can at least guide somebody like, hey, if you have to, here's my idea, right? I mean, as our personality, you know, we're like the innovator. We're always thinking and thinking and thinking. I'm not the best implementer. I'll tell you that right now. Staying on top of my stuff is not my strong suit. I'll tell you for sure. But I can come up with some amazing freaking ideas. And it's not, I'm not going to use the word lazy, but I would almost say lazy. Like, I've got an idea. I know what I want. I know it's going to work, but I don't want to go do it. And so I will literally just write everything out, or at least my ideas. And just like this, I'll find somebody else and say, hey, here's what I want. Is this something that you can do? Oh, it's something you love doing? Perfect, because I don't want to do it. So here's my ideas. Now go do it. We'll learn it together. To me, it's all about teamwork. It's all about growing together. It's always about feedback and then figuring out, okay, where do we make tweaks? What's the next step? And then I also like that person to feel confident and comfortable enough to come back and admit if something went wrong or come up with new ideas, because their ideas might be better than mine. So I'm always trying to push them to give me feedback. But going back, so I don't get too far off on a tangent, I don't think you have to do it or know how to do it to be able to create that position. I don't think as a CEO or whatever, I don't care if you're a manager or whatever, the leader of anybody, I don't think you have to know fully everything that entails. Now, if you do, I think that's great. But I also think that even if you feel like you know 100% how to do it, I guarantee there's somebody out there that knows how to do it better or might offer some other tweaks that can make that position better. So I think you should always be open and accepting to your employees' ideas.
100%. And that's part of the reason I wanted to ask you that, is because I know that that question for that specific job role parallels, any hire in your business or, just life principles in general.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk, Jesse. I definitely want to talk about the rental strategy that we were discussing over some brews in North Carolina over Christmas. But since we're kind of on this subject, though, about team and building, I kind of just want to pick your brain here. And guys, go back, listen to episode 4 if you want. Jesse is the kind of CEO / cool boss that will pay for vacations for his employees. Who wouldn't like to work in some type of company like that, where your boss cares about you that much that he's giving you paid vacations to Vegas or, God knows where he's going to take you out to. So now that we're kind of touching on that, we were talking about onboarding that relationship manager gal. Tell me a little bit about your whole company's team culture, how you hire, how you find people. This where you found from a property management company that you mentioned she wasn't getting treated well. But let's just go into a deep kind of discussion, a broad stroke, if you will, about that whole process. Because that's arguably the top, and I was saying before we got on air here, that's arguably the top question that we get in the InvestorFuse community is all around hiring. How do you find people, job postings, how much you pay them, how to build company culture, all that type of stuff. I want to talk about your meetings that you have too, to go over like KPIs, metrics, all that type of stuff. Cool. So let's just go into a deep dive on that.
So here's something that I suggest anybody that is watching this, I highly suggest you do this for just about any kind of position. But let's just say, since we're already talking about acquisitions and dispositions and stuff here, with the most recent guy, you obviously know how I hired my first guy, was one of my friends and whatnot. And then from there was just kind of like seeing people that were already out in the market, and I grabbed those. But the most recent 1 or 2 that I've done, and now I will stick with this system, is put out your job post or your feelers or wherever wherever you're trying to mention that you've got this position available, and then set up a specific email. Or if you want to use your own specific email, set up a rule, and then tell all those people, have your entire list of, here's all the job, here's everything that the job entails, here's everything you can expect. And then somewhere around where you have the salary, because you already know, come on, let's face it, you're going to work because you want money, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to look at what that salary is. Everybody's going to do it, or hourly or whatever it's going to be. So somewhere right around there, tell them, reply to this email, or reply or send an email to this specific email, and in the subject, put this, whatever it might be. Just put the word stars or badass or real estate or whatever the heck it is. Something, I would almost say golf or something different, right? And then that way, are they even freaking reading the details? If they can't even read everything, that's not who you want.
Got to set up some filters, yeah.
make them do that, right? If they can't do that, they're not going to be a good acquisitions or dispositions or any position you want them to be in. So let them do that. Now, any email that doesn't go to that specific folder, you never have to look at it. If it goes to the folder, boom. This last time, I think out of about 100 responses, I think like 6 or 7 people actually did what I said to do. And then I already had it automated where 20 minutes later, an hour later, send a new email to whoever went to that folder with a new set of questions. And it was something simple like, what time do you wake up? What time do you go to bed? Do you like to read? What's your favorite this? Like 5 or 6 something silly questions, not even really related at all to what it is that I want them to do. But I don't want them just answering the way they think I want to hear. So I'm just trying to see, hey, can you answer these simple 5 to 6 other questions for your step number 2? And then like one other like little test. So it went to another folder, and my final thing was, hey, send me a 30-second or a 2-minute video, just a cell phone, whatever, selfie video, telling me exactly why you think you would be a rock star in this position. And out of 6 people, only 1 person sent me that video. Guess who got the job? And now he's badass. And now he's loving it. I mean, he likes to question me, which is fine because I always tell everybody, question everything. Question. That's how you're going to learn. It irritates me a little bit, but hey, I get it. That's what I told him to do. So I'm glad he's questioning me because it's always keeping me on my toes, but it's also letting me know that he is interested and he wants to keep growing. So anyway, that was my final thing, is have them do that video, see if they're comfortable enough. And they're not even going to be comfortable. They might be like all shaky and I'm not really sure. The fact that they did it means a lot. And we can always grow on video and stuff like that. I mean, here we are now. Going back from number 4 to where I am today is a completely different person. So that's pretty much my hiring process now for just about any position that I do is going through that process for sure.
Very cool. So first segment on hiring, quick synopsis, guys. Jesse puts them kind of through like an American Ninja Gladiator course, that show where they're running through like the pitfalls and all that stuff. And that was 1 out of 100 went through and actually did everything correctly.
Yep.
From emailing the correct email address all the way through a selfie video explaining why they'd be a rock star at that position.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, well, let's keep going. So hiring, we got that every single position, kind of an automated system that you have set up where it just goes, their resumes go to a specific email address that you made custom for that job role.
That's right.
And just put them through a few basic obstacles there just to make sure that they can follow instruction and, you know, are diligent enough to do that.
That's right.
Let's talk about onboarding.
Okay.
Once they've been selected. So this guy here with the selfie video, the 1 out of 100 who made it. Let's talk about onboarding him and hires since then, kind of what you like to instill, because really the hiring process, that's what starts the culture, really.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to the whole culture part, after we do all of that, then I'll finally sit down with like me and my, now he's like kind of stepping up to be my COO basically. But at the moment he's my acquisitions manager. And so I'll sit down with him. He's the one that's been with me for several years now. So the 3 of us sit down, have a meeting. Now it's like, all right, cool. Now let's really get the real vibe and ask a lot more in-depth questions and figure out, is this person going to really pass who we feel is going to fit in our company? So, I mean, as far as the culture of our company and everybody, you have to take constructive criticism, right? You have to be able to ask questions. You have to be able to call out other people if you think that they're wrong. Not like, you know, hey, you're wrong, you're a jerk, whatever. None of that. It's more of like questioning somebody. I get the people all the time questioning me. And again, that's what I like, even though it might be a little bit irritating, but that's how we're going to grow. I want people to be able to joke and take things lightly, but again, accept the constructive criticism. I want us to go out and have good meetings and everybody laugh, like maybe at our bi-weekly meetings. Hey, if you want to bring a bottle of wine or you want to have a beer or something like that, as long as you're not being stupid, if you want to sit here for 3 to 4 hours and you want to sip on something, I don't care. Like, it's a very cool family, cool vibe that we have here. Everybody loves everybody. Different times people like to jump in the car with someone else and go tap into one of their leads or something like that and help them out. Yesterday we had a long meeting, and one of who was the account manager, now stepping into acquisitions. Now one of our other employees was like, yeah, come on over because you're a female. You might help me out on my deal. And so then boom, got the deal locked up, and he's already calling me and is like, hey, I'm going to give her 10% of my deal. You guys tell me whatever number works out for you. So all my team works out together. If they know they got a slamming deal, but it's an hour away and they want it now, they'll call one of the other employees that are closer to that deal and say, hey, can you go take pictures? Can you do the video? Can you do X, Y, Z? I'll give you this amount. So everybody shares for sure. There's no one's being greedy. And it all starts from here, working our way down. I mean, I don't let anybody, the second I notice something like that, I'll definitely bring it up once or twice. And so far, we've never had a problem.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome to hear that, where it's not like a Wolf of Wall Street sales type team at all.
No. I mean, being on the wholesale side, it's already tough enough as it is out here. And I mean, everybody gets on to me, but I pay everybody on my team more than I know anybody else in the industry does. And I know we're going to get into that, so that might be a good segue. But before we get into pay structures and stuff like that, going back to the onboarding stuff, we've done a lot of videos like over the course of the last couple of years, more so recently. And now that we know we're going to be hiring more people, scaling, maybe going to other states and other markets. So what we're doing now is taking more like Zoom videos. And then that way, hey, anybody else that's new coming on, we can just refer them back to all these videos. So we have several folders of training videos and then Q&As basically for that person. We'll take the first week or two of them being in the car with my acquisitions manager trying to go through leads. We'll give them some online training and stuff. And then from there, it's almost like either you're going to make it or you're not. I mean, it's not tough. As long as you're a good people person, every other little thing is just going to be a learning process. There's going to be a learning curve to it, but I can't teach you to be a people person. You either can talk to people or you can't. All right. I mean, that's the way I feel anyway. You might be uncomfortable, but if you're not just like hiding in the corner and you're afraid to pick up the phone, then that's not going to be a good fit, you know? And then follow up. You also have to be really good at follow up. So if we see that you're not a good people person and you can't follow up, you're not going to be a good fit, which is why we went through the 1 out of 100 people to see, hey, can you do follow up? Can you pay attention to detail? And can you actually talk on the phone and say hi face to face? That's pretty much what I need you for that position. So anyway, I don't want to go too far off. So what else before we get into like pay structure and whatnot? So that was onboarding.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of stuff is going to bleed over. As far as like you bring somebody on. I guess one thing I would say starting off, and this does bleed into pay structure a little bit, is for when these people are first coming on, what type of structure do you have? Like you say, they're just like going to make it or not. Because I know some people do either a straight commission where it's like, hey, you can start taking appointments. Like the CEO, I'll make sure that there's enough marketing where we're getting appointments set for you. But you just got to close and get paid a commission. Or some people do a hybrid of some type of base salary commission. Even at Max Maxwell's event, Scott Oots, he does an interesting play where he gives an option of when the person can, and this is, I had heard of this before, but Scott explained it really well at the We Live 19 event in Dallas a few weeks ago. Amazing event. I know I hit you up to go to that, but I think you were at the White.
Yeah, I was already at town or something.
Yeah. But he does a option where the acquisitions manager, when they're comfortable, they start off mandatory. They start off base salary, a mix of base and commission.
Right.
But the commission is a smaller amount. And they can say, hey, I want to go full commission. And then there's like any leads that are in the pipeline currently, those don't count for full commission. But the full commission is significantly bigger than the hybrid system.
Yeah, so I've thought about doing that. And on my first guy, that's kind of what I did is I just said, guaranteed a salary because I wanted him to come over. Now I've pretty much, because we have so many deals coming through the pipeline and we still have so many from the past, we have crazy amounts of ways for them to be able to land a deal, where now I pretty much just say, everybody, you are commission only. One of my employees actually started with me, and then about 3 months later, he had to leave. He had to go back to his old company because of insurance, and he was having a newborn baby. And then about 4 to 6 months later, he actually came right back. So he's now one of our top guys. So that's kind of cool for him to go to a W-2 job, making bank, to still come back and work for us. And so going into the whole full commission, at that point in time, I told him, I was like, look, you know where you're coming from. I hope you at least have like a month or two of reserves, because I'm not going to guarantee you anything. I already know you're going to be good. So perfectly fine. one of the newest guy, I did front him a little bit of money whenever I knew things started getting a little bit stressful. But at the same time, he still stayed with it, which proved to me that, hey, he's willing to almost seem like he's losing, which is going to help put a fire under his butt and motivate him a little bit more. And then whenever I sensed that that was getting pretty stressful for him, then I came in and saved him a little bit, which then, of course, for him, it was like respect me a little bit more and know that I'm not going to ever just like sink or swim 100%. I'm going to make it seem like it's sink or swim, but I'm going to be there to pull you out before you drown for sure. So yeah, mine is 1099, 100% commission. And then my structure for the new guys, I start them out at 25% of whatever our spread is. So whatever our net is, that's what they're going to get the 25% on. My acquisitions manager, he gets 30% of his own deals. Yeah, I know it's a lot.
Those are high. I love hearing that, though, but I'll let you continue. But that's good. That's awesome. And I mean, that's why you're able to, keep this culture. But go on. That is high.
Yeah, that's why they come back. That's exactly why if they left, they came back. And I also know now that I don't have to be like some of these other companies, and they've got high turnover, making, their guys are only making 10, 15% on the deals. And I know a lot of other smaller guys, smaller companies like myself, and they're only giving them 10, 15%. But again, to me, it's long-term play. So
100%.
It's a little bit more of the volume, but why have to go through more of the training process? I want people who are here for years and then can start adding value to the new people, let them take care of it all instead of me having to do any of it. So 25% for any of the new guys, 30% for the acquisitions manager. And then any deal that the guys who are under the acquisitions manager, so any of the associates that close their deal, the acquisitions manager gets 5% of their deal as well. So from the get-go, no matter what, I already know 30% is gone just from my acquisitions. And then I give my dispositions 10% of the deal. So there's 40%. And then now my new sales and marketing director that's coming on, he's got a base salary, but he also, because I'm all about incentivizing my people. I want everybody to grow and feel like they're just making more. So they're of course going to want to grow and push the company to do better. So I'm giving him also 5% of all the deals as well. So now I'm already at 30, 10, and 5. So I'm already at 45% right there gone. That's not even including whatever my marketing cost is on a deal. So, I mean, probably after all said and done, I'm probably around 60% of everything already gone. And then the company might make roughly 40 or so % on each deal.
And then a good chunk of that obviously goes back into marketing, business, everything like that.
Yep. Almost 100% of it, if I can, goes right back into some form or fashion, marketing, business expense, or finding the next person that I can hire. One
quick thing, kind of like a high level philosophy. I was talking about this on a podcast with Joe Cordes in New York. Shout out to Joe Cordes. Just to challenge yourself, not to think so linear. So with that example, I was kind of just shocked to hear, because that's obviously higher than what most companies pay, 30% to an acquisition manager net on a wholesale spread. But I challenge you guys not to be so linear in your thinking, meaning if you're paying more to an acquisitions manager per deal, the linear thinking is, oh, I'm losing more money here. I'm paying out more money than I could be. Like I could afford to pay someone 15%, for example, close to half of that. But in the long term, the nonlinear thinking, you're saving money because it's less turnover, company culture, so they're going to get more deals. So it's like a lot of stuff that's going on there in the long-term play that you're actually going to be saving money or at least being around the same. Andrew, what's up, man? He had a question. Andrew, thanks for hopping on, dude. Quick question here for you, Jesse, that just came in as we were going through your pay structure there. He wants to know what you are making on the deals, what percentage. So I think you said around, close to 60%. And then we kind of said that some of that's going to go back into marketing. Some of that's just going to go back into the business overall. But Andrew wanted to know.
About 60% is already being paid out. So the company is making roughly 40% on the deal. And most people are going to now see this, hear this, and be like, oh, this guy knows his KPIs. He knows every single freaking number. Guess what? You're wrong. which is the reason why I'm trying to hire my sales and marketing guy, because he's all about the numbers. I'm all about the systems, but I tried to do everything. And then I realized that I can only do but so much accounting and working on my finances and the marketing and growing the business. So right now I'm just like, look, I'm still making money right now. I'll get the person in place to then take over and be able to supply everybody with all the correct numbers and know down to the 1% of where we're at. But roughly, yeah, the company's going to keep about 40%, which doesn't really leave much at all for me personally, but I've got several streams of income. So I'm not relying just on this one wholesale business. I'm primarily using our wholesale business as the bloodline to everything else for the company, our flips, all of our buy and holds, and then of course selling it to other investors, building the rapport, building the relationship there. So a lot of our deals actually go to our employees. I try to give them, really good deals on anything that they find or any of the other employees find as well, which is another incentive for them being here with the company versus somewhere else. But yeah, so 60% expenses out, 40% roughly for the company, Andrew.
Very cool. And yeah, I guess he got further clarification there after like taxes, marketing, stuff like that. I'm not sure if he got that fully answered. But yeah, we can keep going here as far as culture. We've talked onboarding, pay structure, and I guess that could work for everything that you're doing. Yeah, Andrew, he does a lot of different stuff here. So we can start diving into that kind of, and this is going to kind of bleed over into, we're talking about weekly meetings. You mentioned a bi-weekly meeting.
Yeah, bi-weekly, every other Wednesday.
You're working on getting your KPIs in place so you can say, hey, it costs us this much money to acquire a wholesale deal. It costs us $3,500 or whatever, so you're more educated in making those, which is going to be awesome.
Correct.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about meetings going through that. And we've already, just recently got some light on that, but maybe some stuff you're looking to expand on this year moving forward as far as like tracking KPIs and stuff like that.
Yep. So every other Wednesday is when we have our the entire team that comes in, except for on the flipping side. My project manager stays out and does his own thing. Right now he's not enjoying staying home, but I'm enjoying not having a project so he can stay home and enjoy with his wife. So yeah, he's getting paid for doing nothing right now, but I'm making him happy, so I'm cool with that. So every other Wednesday, all of the acquisitions or the wholesale side, we have a meeting, and then we literally just sit down, and then I will usually address my, which is now going to be like the COO. I'm now kind of letting him step in and start trying to run the meetings, but the whole point of the meeting is to explain things that I've learned throughout the 2 weeks since I've seen them. Obviously, throughout 2 weeks, you're going to have meetings and little stuff like that. But I'm always jotting down things that I've learned, and I'm always like educating them on where I'm at in my situation, because I'm very open and I want them to know everything. Like, hey, money's super tight this month. I'm not going to be able to bring in pizza and beer for you, maybe next month, but here's where I'm at. And I try to let everybody know everything, because I want them to always get a sense of, hey, if I'm stressed, here's the reason why. And I'm just an open book with my team, but I'll tell them what's going on with the company, what new marketing we've had, or some new strategies that I'm thinking about, or some other ideas that I have that's going to be coming up for the company. Sometimes I'll tell them, hey, give me a list of like 5 or 6 people right now that you would like for me to call as the COO of the company and just kind of check up on one of their leads and just say, hey, I'm just kind of randomly going through leads and I just want to check on my employees and see how things are going. What's your experience with my employee? The whole point of that really is to build more credibility with that person, but to get them to respond and hopefully us have the ability to close that deal. That's really what that is. But it's little ideas like that that we come up with throughout the meetings. And then I'll let them talk about deals that they have in the pipeline, things that they're getting locked up right now, how they want to sell it, and then just go around the table and then let each person, hey, I'm having a problem with this person. This is what they said. One of the other 4 people are going to say, hey, I had that problem last week. Here's what I did. Someone else says, here's what I did. So now we're all able to kind of give each other feedback. And I mean, just being able to sit back and I don't have to say much anymore. And I can just watch the entire team help each other is like, I had such a great time yesterday in yesterday's meeting. I mean, I was texting everybody after just individually. Thank you so much for being here. You're like You're adding so much value. Just little notes like that keep them all pumped up. So that's kind of what we're doing at each biweekly meeting right now.
You'll definitely have to get someone to film part of those for your YouTube content game, because that's what I was telling. I was doing an interview with Raul Balufe in Miami, and he's going down more of the YouTube content path too, trying to add value. He does a lot of business in Miami, and he's the same way. He's big on, he does a weekly meeting, and that's one of the biggest things he does too. It's like he'll have next actions for each person after the meetings, and instead of, he purposely doesn't try to be the problem solver for those next actions. He gives them next actions, then tells them, okay, how are you able to like solve this, whatever it may be.
And that's a great point, because I actually was just thinking about that yesterday too. I love being the problem solver. I freaking love when they have something and I could just immediately, I'm just in the middle of them talking, I'm already like, yep, I already know. And I hate stopping them, but sometimes I'm like, before I forget, okay, boom, try this, and this. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. They're writing things down. I can just solve problems like in seconds. It just comes to my head. You can keep talking and I already know exactly how to take care of that problem. So now, as of like last week, I'm trying to be more like, not say what I think should be the next step. I just start asking them questions, start making them think, because I know they're going to be their own person, but I want them to be able to have the confidence and the know-how to be able to solve those problems without me being there all the time. So that's a very good point, that that's what he's doing as well. And I think it definitely has something to say with your company when they can then rely on themselves instead of always waiting for the COO to be there. Because now I'm going on a lot of vacations and I'm not always going to be there at all.
And your COO runs those meetings when you're vacation with the wife? Yes,
exactly. So he'll take care of those most of the time. I think only one recently. I was out of town because we only do it bi-weekly. So it just happened to be like one recently, and then he squashed that.
Very cool. Do we want to touch on anything else company culture-wise before we move on to rental strategy game?
Well, let's see if anybody else says anything for a second. I'll think here until I hear from anybody else.
No other comments coming in. And I mean, we might have some, again, we'll probably have bleed over as we're talking rental strategy game.
Yeah, definitely.
And stuff like that. Cool. So, and I know we mentioned this a couple times. So when I met with Jesse over winter break, he was excited to tell me about a rental acquisition strategy where it's little to no cash out of your pocket.
Yep.
Let's dive into that.
Man, so already just from when we had that meeting, and I'm going to get excited and pumped up right now. I could probably show you a bunch of HUDs right now. My last one, by the way, I left, on a refi. And we're going to go back to the very beginning of this, but let me just tell you right now, on a refi on this house that I just had for a very short period of time, did a little bit of rehab on it, which that's going to come into this as well. I left with like a $1,300 check. So I obtained this rental, and I'm not having to pay anything for it. And I left with the check, which then helped pay for my closing cost. So you guys can do this too. So here's the exciting part here. And you don't need any of my contacts. I'll share my contacts with you, especially if you're in the Atlanta area, but you don't need my people. You can do this by yourself. So let's just start on a simple, let's just say that you find a property that you already know is worth $100,000. You're going to turn this into a rental. I'm not going to get into rent rates. I'm not going to get into, I don't look at cap. Some of you guys might. I'm not going to get into that stuff. I'm just going to look at the basics. So you find a house that you know is worth $100,000, but you're able to buy it for, let's say it already has a tenant in place, just to keep this most basic. It's already got a tenant in place. You're planning on just buying it, closing it, and then just start cash flowing. So you buy it at, let's say, $65,000. You know it's worth $100,000, but you're buying it at $65,000. You're going to have to pay for your closing costs, and you're going to have to pay for however you're going to fund it. In this specific strategy, don't use your own cash. Use a private lender. You can, if it's this most basic structure, you can use your own cash. But let's just say that you're using private money, somebody else's money, your friend, your neighbor, your mom, your dad. I don't care. Use somebody else's money to buy the deal. You're going to have to pay them a little bit for that deal. They're not going to just give you money for free. So let's say that you're using a private lender. Worst case, I know it's not even remotely close to this, but worst case, his fees plus closing cost might be $5,000. So now you're getting a loan now for, if you include all the fees and everything into that loan, now you've got a $70,000 loan. Immediately, the next day, if you can, the very next day, you don't have to wait 3 months, you don't have to wait 6 months. This is not a cash out refi. If you tell your lender, hey, I'm trying to cash out and do a refi, or I'm trying to do a refi and I want some cash back, they're immediately going to say, nope, you got to wait 6 months. So never mention cash out refi. This is going to be called a rate and term refi. So you've already closed on it with your private lender. The next day, you can already call your mortgage broker and start a rate and term refi. So now the following day, start the rate and term refi. You're going to have to wait, give or take 3 weeks, because you're going to have to go through the appraisal, the inspection, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, 3 weeks later, you go back to your second closing on your refi, your rate and term refi. Well, you're going to still have to pay them their fees, their origination and everything, plus the closing cost. Again, worst case scenario, I know at that point in time, it's probably going to be like $3,500 in fees, origination and everything. But let's just say all your fees, worst case, are $5,000. But your house has now been appraised at 100. They will give you a loan to value. So they're going to give you a loan of up to 80,000, but most will say 75, but you can get 80%. I generally try to stick with 75% or below on my loan to value. So it's appraised at 100. They come back and say, hey, we'll give you $75,000. Okay, cool. What's your existing loan? It's $70,000. So your existing lender sends your mortgage broker the loan payoff showing $70,000. Now they say, okay, cool. Well, we can give you 75, but you only need 70. Yes, that's right. But Fannie Freddie, now this is conventional loan. This is conventional. So you are going to have to, it's going to be based on your W-2 or your job and your credit and stuff like that. So now payoff is 70,000. You can roll all of the refi origination and fees into the refinance as long as it's below that $75,000 that they were going to give you. So now I've used my private lender, closed on the deal, did the refi, allowed up to $75,000, rolled all my fees into that loan. I'm still going to be at or below $75,000, which is where I'm allowed to have that loan. I go to closing, close it out. I don't have to bring any money to the table. If you have to, you may have to pay for your closing costs and stuff like that. You may not be able to get your private lender to give you a little extra money to pay for the closing. So if you have to come out of pocket for closing costs, that might be what, $600, $1,000 or so. But the amount that you're allowed to leave closing with, now some people are going to question, how do I leave with money at the closing? If there's still available amount of money between like your 75% loan to value, as long as you don't exceed the 75% or you go to the 80%, Fannie Freddie will allow you up to $2,000 or 2%, whichever one's lower. So a max of $2,000. Again, it's not a cash out refi. They're adding that up to $2,000 into the loan. So you still owe it, but it's almost like cash forward. So they're paying it forward for you. So that is applied on your HUD. And so really that amount, if you have $1,500, $2,000 that you're rolling into that loan that you are owed, your closing fees from your attorney is going to be deducted from the amount that you're getting on that loan. So usually whatever the difference is how I left with, for example, this last time left with like $1,300 because my closing cost with the attorney and title and stuff like that was like $600 or $700. So I left with the difference. So I got a free and clear rental, so to speak. And now I'm going to have a tenant in there paying off the mortgage, and I don't have to bring any money to closing. I got a good rental. So now the next thing is, hey, what if it needs a rehab? A lot of people think, oh, well, sure, I'll buy it with somebody else's money, but then I'm going to use my own cash to do the rehab. That's the worst thing you can do. You can't get a refi on the amount of cash that you invested personally in that property for the rehab, because your lender's not going to be able to send over a payoff statement that includes your own personal cash, because that's not the outstanding loan. So you want to make sure that your private lender includes your rehab. I don't care if you have a LIP account, a construction draw, escrow, it doesn't really matter. As long as you have the rehab account included in with your loan from the very beginning. And then that way they can send the loan payoff, which includes everything to the refi, to the new mortgage broker.
Very cool. On that refi, Jesse, real quick, Andrew, appreciate you hopping on, man, and all the activity here during Jesse's dropping knowledge bombs here. But Andrew had a question referring to the rate and term refi. He said, are you referring to Fannie Mae's delayed financing?
Negative. Delayed financing is if you're using your cash. And then I think that's like 3 months or so. So no, this is not a delayed financing since I'm using private money. Yep.
Private money. Cool. And yeah, he gave a link there to scroll down to the delayed financing. So main thing there, Andrew, is you're not using your own money here. So it would not be the delayed financing.
Correct. Yep. Now, because then on the delayed financing, if you are using some of your own cash, then you've got to wait, and then you've got to get the appraisal, and then whatever the higher amount it's appraised at. But no, if you're using other people's money, now clearly you've got to have a deal with equity. Now, in turn, I mean, in exchange for doing it within a month instead of waiting 6 months using your own cash, if you want to do this process really quick, if you want to build like a massive rental portfolio and you don't want to keep using, you only have so much cash in your own pocket. So you're going to have to wait 6 months. So if you don't have that much cash, or you've got a ton of cash and you don't want to use it and you want to keep that liquid in the bank, then you're going to have to give up some equity in exchange for the process. So you're going to have to pay for your private lenders. You're going to have to pay for some of those fees, but it's all being eaten out of your equity at the end of the day. And that's how you can end with all these rental properties without using any of your own cash. Just have to give up some of the equity and make sure you find a good deal from the start.
Yeah. Andrew, I'll have to connect you. I'm going to put Jesse's contact info. He's kind enough to share his own info, some Atlanta contacts, things like that, his YouTube and his Facebook. He pretty much does lives at least every week that I see. Every time I see him, I give a like on there. But Andrew said the delayed financing is next day. So I'll definitely connect you guys after this interview if you want to chat about that. Yeah. I'm curious. I love the REM numbers and keeping it very simple. Do you have any case studies of some ones that you recently picked up that we could kind of go through the numbers on there as well? And I'm curious, these deals that you're getting, they're coming just organically through your wholesale marketing? Yeah,
exactly. There was one, the best one actually came in. He actually was buying one of my quick flip rental rehabs. And he bought that as an investment property, and he's from California. So while I was on the phone talking with him, like, hey, you're obviously buying properties over here in Atlanta. How many do you have? Just building that report, asking questions. And he's like, oh, I got 5. Well, actually, one just burnt down. I've got the check right here. I was about to start doing the rehab on it. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I'm like, well, let me go check that out. What, did you know that you could, you're supposed to claim whatever money that you don't use on that check. You are still supposed to claim that, whether you do or not. That's not my responsibility. But if you don't use it on your house, you have to claim it as income. But if you want to, you can keep that. You can sell me or sell some other investor that property, and then you can leave with the amount of money that I'm buying your burnt down house, plus whatever difference that you still have left from that insurance check. And you can actually buy multiple properties, multiple rental properties, instead of just repair this one house. Well, he didn't know he could do that. He didn't even have that idea. So long story short, I ended up buying that property. He basically gave it away. I told him he could have probably been making like $60,000, $80,000 on it. And he initially thought, well, I'll give it to you for 25. So you already know I went running over there and looked at it. So I looked at it and I was like, yeah, if you want to sell it to me for 25, I'll do it. And he's like, can you do 40? And I'm like, come on, Smalls, you're killing me. I was like, yeah, I'll do 40. No big deal. I put like 55 in it or so. I'm all in at like 90. My loan right now is, I think, 95,000, and it's valued. The appraiser valued it at 200. I know it's about 215, but I didn't really care. So I've got at least $100,000 in equity on that property right there. And that's going to be cash flowing about $1,000 a month on that property. But let's just do a quick case study. I had one that I just did a refi on. Now, some people are not going to qualify for conventional. Let's just face it. Some of you guys are not going to be able to. So then you're going to have to go through something like more along the lines of an asset-based lender. You can still do the same strategy and do the refi with your asset-based lender. Use private lender on the initial get-go, the rehab, whatever, and then do the refi with the asset-based lender. You're going to probably pay slightly higher interest and fees, but if you can still get in, you got a good deal. If your appraiser comes back a little bit lower than you expected, or maybe your closing costs were a little bit higher, or maybe your private lender didn't quite give you as much as you wanted, I'd still rather get into a house with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and still have that investment property than having to just buy a $100,000 property from the get-go and put 20% down.
Right.
So who cares if my numbers weren't 100% correct and I still had to pay $3,000, $4,000 to get into that property. So the case study here, I bought another one for roughly, I think it was $90,000 all in, and same kind of thing, private lender. This is actually kind of how it started, to be honest with you. I bought this one. I was going to wholesale it, and then one of my employees wanted it, and then I'm just like, okay, cool, you can have it. Last second, like right before we were about to close, she decided she didn't want it, so then I still performed on it, and then I'm like, well, it's still cash flowing right now, so I'll just keep it. And then I just got busy, so I didn't forget about it, but I just didn't deal with it. And then about a month or two later, I'm like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and keep it as a rental. So now what do I want to do? So then I went and did the refi on it. And when I found out I was going through the refi, they appraised it at like 130 or 140, which was about $10,000 or $15,000 more than I valued it at. Great for me. Then they came back and said, oh, well, we can give you a loan up to this dollar amount. And I'm like, well, I only need 90. Well, they're like, okay, well, we can roll all of our fees into it. We're going to be at 95. I start looking at the CD and I'm like, shit, I'm making money? Like, how did that work? And then it was like, dude, light bulb went off. I'm like, wait a minute. I used private money. I'm not paying anything. I refied it. I'm leaving with a check. The tenant's been paying off the mortgage the entire time. I can do this over and over and over again. I don't have to wait for, as everybody says, the BRRR strategy. I don't have to wait for the BRRRR. I can do it hand over fist. So yeah, that was my first one. And that's what kind of brought on this whole strategy. And by the way, guys, this is not a new strategy at all. I thought it was new. It was just something I didn't even know about. And I'm like, oh, cool. Look at this new thing I created. No, it's been out there for ages. Just no one really wants to take the time to do it. And a lot of times maybe they can't find a deal with enough equity or enough meat on the bone to actually be able to do it. How do we need to probably go over more numbers, or was that $100,000 with the $65,000 purchase probably good enough for everybody?
Yeah, I think that's good enough. If any comments come in here, I know Andrew's been pretty active on the feed here. If he has any other questions regarding that, I'll definitely throw them up. But that makes tons of
sense too. Let me also add into it. If you're someone like myself who has a team who's doing acquisitions, guess what? Some of you guys might already be thinking, well, if he's got acquisitions, doesn't he have to pay his acquisitions team and his dispositions team? Yes, I do, but it ain't coming out of my pocket. I'll talk to my private lender because I've got such a good rapport with him. He already knows how much equity I have in the deal. I'm already rolling all of the rehab into the loan. I'm adding in all of my employees' commissions into it, like everything into the loan from the get-go. So again, he even pays for my employees' commissions too. They're happy, I'm happy, tenant's happy, seller's happy. You can't lose.
I remember you telling me about that in Carolina, just a big old smile on your face.
Oh yeah, yeah. I get excited, man. I'm gonna probably start like tripping up in my words and everything. I get excited about this stuff. I love it.
That's funny. A couple quick questions just from my perspective. You personally, are you using primarily one private lender for all these rental deals and your flips, or are you using multiple people and kind of always looking for more private lenders?
Yep. So I had multiple, and then I was trying to slow down a little bit building the team. So a couple of them, I let them go off and do their own investments. So now I'm down to primarily one. And I've got other opportunities right now. It's super simple. I know he's got plenty. We've got a really good relationship. I know I can get better rate and term for sure. But it's working for me right now while I'm focused on building the company and growing. So at any point in time, I will. And he already knows it. Hey, I've got other people that are just waiting for me. So I will make more time to go back and start taking care of some other private lenders. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be going back out there now. And the team knows that, hey, part of my responsibility is to go back out there, build the relationships with more private lenders. So that way I can also feed the team as well, and then keep our private lenders happy with all of my team buying their rentals or flips and stuff using their money as well. So that will be something I'm going to get back into probably in the next 3 months. I'll probably get back out there and bringing in more private lenders.
Back on the campaign trail.
It's really simple to find private lenders. It really is, especially once you're out there, like putting yourself out there and you're showing what you can do. And you know, you're already proving to people out on social media what you're doing. People just come to you. It's crazy. So I know I have no problem in a few months just bringing on some more private lenders. So I think the same thing from everybody. If they can just show what they do, feel confident, and you know, exude that confidence, and then be able to let your private lender know that they're going to be in first lien position, you're never going to default, then I think you're good to go. Just take care of them, find out what they want, and take care of them.
Is that your number one private lender finding strategy? So more of like a social media type awareness for the company and what you're looking for?
I wouldn't say that it's like my number one. It just happens to be that like all my friends, family, and then other followers already see me out there all the time. Mm-hmm. So one way or another, it usually somehow comes from there. Like, oh, I've seen you so many times do this, or you've talked about other private lenders, you know, I'm interested in lending with you. So I'm not trying to promote, you know, finding private lenders right now via social media. That's usually more of like a one-on-one, or someone Facebook messages me or something like that. And then as we're just talking generally, then something like that pops up. Maybe they want to get into real estate, but they want to be true passive investor and they don't want to be out there with the risk. Well, boom, I've got a great opportunity for you right now. That's about as passive as you can get. And here's your returns.
Yeah, it's a good lead source to have in the arsenal for sure. Because how many people would just like to, like, you know, dentist or whatever profession, just want to invest in real estate passively without having to do anything. They just, you know, give you a loan and get paid in X amount of months or whatever.
That's right. Absolutely.
Very cool. And then the last question regarding that, I had the two parts there about the finding the private lenders and your personal private lender inventory. The second thing is, in addition to folks reaching out to you on this rental strategy, do you know what the exact term, rate and term refi, what is this type of rental strategy called if people want to look a little bit more into it themselves as well, in addition to reaching out to you?
So I don't know if there's a technical name for it.
Not like a BRRRR, not like an acronym.
Yeah, I don't know if there's, you know, if you're just focused on a rate and term refi is probably about the best thing I can really say. But instead of waiting 6 months or a year, 5 years, you can just do it the next day, right? Via conventional or straight asset based, and then put yourself into a portfolio loan. So, God, you can just about have you can create any kind of term with any of your own private lenders, right? But just to kind of keep it simple, what I'm paying one of the guys, again, like I said, is more than I've paid on a few other people. I was only paying like 6 or 8% interest, no points. This guy specifically, because I know I can call him in 5 minutes, I'll have the money. So I'm paying for that ease. So that's going to be 10% interest annualized, and then 2-point origination. Now, even though he is true private, he's running his business now over the last year, getting more into private, but it's still kind of getting close up towards hard money. But 10% interest, 2 points still isn't what most people would consider hard money. But he's got the option, of course, of building the relationship with you and then working on terms. And that's usually for a 12-month deal. Now, if he knows, like if it's somebody he doesn't know, this one specific guy will probably just do, I think, like, I know this sounds crazy, but when you look at it over time, it's going to come out to be exactly 2 points and 10% interest. But up front, he might just charge 5%, which includes 3 months. So it gives you up to 3 months to do your refi. But again, if you spread that out over the course of 3 months, it comes out to be 2% and 10% interest is what that comes out to be. But there's so many other people that you can use. You can call your own friends and family. Oh, I don't know if I'm still live or not, but Carlos said his computer just died, so I'm sure he'll be back on. I'm just going to keep talking just in case I am still live. So you guys can use any of your own. Let me just respond back to him. I'll keep chatting. I'm just going to keep talking, Carlos.
Cool,
so
I'm back.
Just go ahead and make that video 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever it is. Post it on my page asking whatever question you have. And then what I'll do is I'll probably reply, as you already see, I'm long-winded. I love talking, helping you guys out. I'll probably reply with a 2 to 3 time length video than you came to my page with, answering as many questions as I can for you. The main reason for this is I don't want to just help you out. I want to help 50, 100, 200 other people that are also having the same question that you do, but don't have the balls to be able to take 30 seconds and ask that question. So I tell people all the time, if they private message me, I ask them like, hey, I'll reply to this. I'm super busy, but do me a favor, shoot me a super quick video and put it on my page. And I rarely get it. I bet if you scroll back to my page, there's next to nobody that's even done that. And so, hey, I really want to help you, but if you want my free time, then go ahead and let me help everybody out. And majority of the people won't even do it. So then I know like, hey, that means you probably weren't going to apply whatever it was that I told you anyway. So by you not putting a video on my page, just save me time so I can go spend it with my wife. So she's not yelling at me for always giving and never getting anything out of it. So Carlos, while you were gone, I was just kind of going over the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then kind of what our sales and marketing director is going to start helping me out with more videos, more content. And then you heard the last part about, hey, if anybody has questions, put the video on there, because not only is it going to help me, it's going to help everybody in the market. Plus, it's also going to show that, hey, they mean business. And now what they don't even realize is my private lenders, my brokers, my contacts see, hey, they brought up a really good question, a really good point. I like that guy. I'm going to reach out to them personally. And now you start building more relationships that way. So just by putting yourself out there, you have no idea how many people are actually paying attention to you, following you, watching you, and never even say anything. I hear it all the time. Hey, I've been following you for years. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. But so, yeah, I mean, putting yourself out there is really going to help you and your company, your team grow for sure.
I love that. And yeah, sorry for my MacBook died. It said 40%, but it just died. I came back on real quick. But yeah, man, that's definitely magnifying value, squeezing the most out of your time, being the most efficient with your time. If you're getting people to actually send you videos, reply on there. So it's helping a lot of people. And I've seen one of my buddies here locally, Daniel Giacomo, he's always helping out just on social media threads. And he's the same way. People are like sending him PMs. He's like, please just post a public comment so I can answer it here. And I'm answering, everybody. And one of our business coaches says, client-wise, if there's the same principle, if there's like one person that asks a specific question, there's another 10 that have the same one that just aren't asking.
Agreed, 100%. So I don't know if I can't see it. So I don't know if any other questions popped up or if there's anything else that you had in queue that you want me to go over. I got time or whatever you want.
I don't, man. That's what I wanted to wrap up with, is just where people could reach you. And it looks like you were covering that. Again, apologies for the MacBook dying, but that's what Jesse and I were saying before we got on air here. When stuff is going nice and easy, nice steady breeze, you're smooth, you're cruising along nice and smooth, anybody could do that. But when it's challenging, those are the ones that have to persist, and that's where the great leaders are born. So had a little bit of that getting set up here today, and then the computer dying, but all happy to do it with a smile on our face.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can, I guess everybody will see this later, all the comments and info on the bottom, I assume. So you can I'll send you the email and you can have all that info and just attach it to here is probably the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, let me put your Facebook on here just while we have that. And guys, thanks again for checking out this live stream. We're going to throw this on YouTube, of course, and all the iTunes podcast app, everything like that. I'm just going to throw Jesse's Facebook profile in here and then also his YouTube page link as well. So you'll see me commenting on that if you want to check it out right now before we put it in the show notes of a podcast. So I just threw those on here. Awesome. So those links are on there. Definitely reach out to Jesse. Andrew, definitely link up with Jesse because it sounds like you had some questions there on delayed financing.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff like that. But dude, thanks for coming on. The first, I think the first repeat guest. A pleasure and a privilege as always. Wishing you massive success and happiness as always, man. Good to see you.
Absolutely. And then I'll get out and see you and Dan here shortly. I know I got to go to Charlotte here again in the next couple months for a really big mastermind, but hopefully I'll get up to visit you guys shortly.
Definitely, man. That'll be awesome. Have an awesome day, guys, and talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, everybody.